My sister married the man she had been seeing while he was still engaged to me. I stayed away from their wedding. I sent her our grandmother's wooden wedding box with an antique key and one sealed envelope inside. When she opened it after the reception, she found a recorded mortgage for $480,000 in her name on a lake house she had never agreed to finance. My name is Elena Cole. I am 45 years old, and I work in title risk, the same field my family blamed for making me too suspicious to build a marriage. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if someone ever stole your place in the family, only to discover they had also inherited the danger you tried to warn them about. Adrian Vale proposed to me in a restaurant overlooking Lake Minnetonka. 3 weeks later, he asked me to sign a property authorization broad enough to let him submit loan and title documents on my behalf. He called it a convenience. I called it a problem. At the time, Adrian was developing a group of older waterfront homes through Vale Heritage Restoration. He said lenders moved slowly, sellers became impatient, and couples who planned to marry should not need separate signatures for every inspection, draw request, or title correction. I read the document twice. It allowed him to sign far more than routine scheduling forms. It included borrowing, pledging property interests, and approving construction disbursements. I am not signing this, I said. He smiled as if I had misunderstood a joke. You review title defects all day. You know how much paperwork slows a project. I also know why lenders require the borrower to understand what she is signing. We are getting married. That is not a substitute for limited authority. He folded the pages and slipped them back into his briefcase. You never trust anyone. I trust people who can explain why they need my signature. That conversation did not end our engagement. Not immediately. What ended it was a hotel receipt in Madison's name. Madison is my younger sister by 7 years. She had always been the one my mother described as warm, spontaneous, and easy to love. I was organized. Madison was generous. I was cautious. Madison followed her heart. In our family, those descriptions were not neutral. They were assignments. When I found the receipt, Adrian said Madison had helped him plan my birthday weekend. Madison said the same thing. Then I found messages showing the weekend had already happened. There was no birthday plan. There was one room, 2 guests, and a string of messages that began months before Adrian asked me to sign the authorization. I ended the engagement. Adrian did not deny the affair after that. He said our relationship had become transactional. Madison cried and said she never meant to hurt me. My mother, Lorraine, asked whether I was sure I wanted to throw away 5 years over something that began when the relationship was already dying. My brother Paul said Adrian and I had never been well matched. No one asked how long Madison had been lying to my face. Within a month, Adrian and Madison were public. Within 6 months, they were engaged. My family adjusted with astonishing speed. The story became that Adrian had chosen the sister who understood him. I became the woman who could not move on. My mother removed our engagement photograph from the hallway before she removed a single picture of Adrian. At Christmas, she sent me a group photo from the dinner I had declined. Madison stood beside him in the same place where I had stood the year before. Paul added a message beneath it. Everyone is trying to heal. You are the only one holding the wound open. I deleted the photograph but saved the message. Adrian also sent one email. He said he hoped I would eventually understand that Madison had given him the emotional trust I never could. He added that the property authorization had been intended to help us build wealth together, and that my refusal had shown him our partnership would always be limited by suspicion. That sentence stayed with me. He did not describe the authorization as unnecessary after all. He described my refusal as the flaw that ended us. For months, I wondered whether caution had made me impossible to love. Then I remembered that he had begun sleeping with Madison before he asked me for broader signing power. The sequence mattered. He had not turned to her because I discovered the affair. He had already chosen the person less likely to question what he placed in front of her. I stopped attending holidays after my mother invited Adrian to Thanksgiving and seated him in my father's old chair. A year later, Madison sent me a wedding invitation. There was no note, no apology, only thick cream paper announcing a ceremony at Bellwether Estate. I left the invitation unanswered. Then my mother called from a number I had not blocked. "You should come," she said. "No. Madison wants peace." Did she say that? She does not know how to approach you. She found a way to send an invitation. My mother exhaled. "You are making everyone choose." They chose before I left. The wedding is not the place to reopen this. I agree. That is why I will not be there. She lowered her voice. Adrian bought Madison a lake house. He is building a future with her. You need to stop treating their happiness as something stolen from you. The lake house was the first detail that mattered. Adrian had shown me several properties during our engagement. One was a neglected cedar-sided home on Heron Lake, with a stone chimney and a boathouse leaning toward the water. He had wanted to purchase it through Vale Heritage Restoration. The numbers had not worked. The house needed foundation repair, septic replacement, shoreline approval, and more cash than Adrian admitted. I had told him not to proceed without a complete title and construction review. He called me risk-obsessed. Now, my mother said he had bought it for Madison. I did nothing that night. The next morning, I searched the county's public property index from my personal laptop. My employer's systems were never involved. I paid for a certified title report through an independent title company and asked a real estate attorney to review the results with me. The report showed 3 recent documents. First, a quitclaim deed transferred a 1/2 interest in the lake house from Vale Heritage Restoration, LLC, to Madison Cole. It had been recorded 8 weeks before the wedding. A grantee does not ordinarily sign the deed that gives her property. Adrian's company could record a transfer naming Madison without proving that she knew about it or accepted it. Second, a construction mortgage for $480,000 named Vale Heritage Restoration and Madison Cole as mortgagors. The public record did not show the private promissory note or any guarantee. It showed that someone had presented an acknowledged mortgage as Madison's act. Madison had never mentioned buying property. She had never mentioned a mortgage. The signature acknowledgement said the closing occurred remotely on a Tuesday afternoon. I knew where Madison had been that Tuesday. She had posted photographs from a dental conference in Phoenix. A social media post was not enough to prove she had not signed remotely. People can sign from hotels and airports. But it was enough to ask a question. The deed and mortgage also created a problem that had nothing to do with romance. The public record made Madison appear to own an interest that she had then agreed to encumber. The mortgage could burden that interest if it was valid. Whether she also owed the debt personally depended on private loan documents I had no right to see. If the signature was not hers, the title chain still contained documents that could affect a lender, contractors, a title insurer, and anyone who later tried to sell the house. A forged mortgage does not vanish because the true owner says she never signed it. The claim has to be investigated, the documents authenticated, and the competing interests resolved through the lender, insurer, agreement, or court process. That was why I could not send Madison a text saying Adrian had committed fraud. The records proved that a mortgage existed. They proved her name had been used. They did not yet prove who supplied the identity documents or who appeared before the remote notary. I ordered certified copies. Then I called Nina Shaw, the attorney who had handled a condominium purchase for me years earlier. I think my sister's identity may have been used in a property transaction. Do you have her authorization to investigate? No. Then stay with public records. Do not contact the lender as if you represent her. Do not access private closing files. I understand. What are you planning to do? Warn her before she moves into the house. Warn her with records, not conclusions. Our grandmother had left Madison and me a small wooden wedding box made from walnut. It had belonged to her mother before her. Madison took the lace veil. I kept the box. Inside, it was an antique key from our grandparents' first home. It opened nothing now. I placed the key beside the certified title report, the recorded deed, and the mortgage. Then I wrote one page. Before you move into the house, ask why you became its owner and borrower 8 weeks before your wedding. Do not sign another document until independent counsel reviews the closing. The records enclosed are public. They do not prove who signed. They prove that someone represented to the county and lender that you did. The letter said nothing about the affair, asked nothing about leaving Adrian, and offered no claim that I had been right. I wrapped the box and sent it by insured courier to the bridal suite with instructions that only Madison could sign for it. The courier confirmation showed delivery 90 minutes before the ceremony. Madison did not open it then. She opened it after the reception in the hotel suite, while Adrian was downstairs with members of the wedding party. She called me at 1:12 in the morning. I almost let it ring. "Elena?" Her voice sounded small. "Yes." "What did you send me?" "Public records." "Why is my name on a mortgage?" "That is what you need to ask your own attorney. Adrian says it was part of the wedding gift. Did you agree to borrow $480,000? He says the house has equity." "That was not my question." She began to cry. "He says I signed electronically. Did you?" "I signed wedding forms, insurance forms, some renovation papers." "Did anyone explain that you were taking title and signing a construction mortgage?" "No." "Then stop talking to me and call independent counsel. Why did you do this tonight?" "I sent it before the wedding because you were about to move into the house. You chose when to open it. You wanted to ruin my marriage. If I wanted spectacle, I would have sent it to the reception." She went quiet. Then Adrian's voice appeared in the background. "Give me the phone." Madison whispered, "I have to go." The call ended. By morning, my family had decided I was jealous. Paul sent a message saying I had turned a legal technicality into a wedding attack. My mother wrote that Madison had spent her first night as a bride crying because I could not let her be happy. I sent one response. A $480,000 mortgage is not a wedding feeling. Madison needs independent counsel. Then I blocked them again. For 11 days, I heard nothing. On the 12th, Madison appeared at my office lobby. She wore large sunglasses and carried the wooden wedding box. I met her in a conference room near reception. She placed the box on the table. "Adrian says you are trying to destroy the lake house project. I am not part of the project. He says the mortgage is normal because I own half the house. Did you agree to own half? He said the deed was a surprise. Property debt should not be a surprise." She removed the sunglasses. Her face was tired, not bruised. That mattered. I did not invent violence because I distrusted Adrian. "What did your attorney say?" I asked. "I have not hired one." "Then why are you here?" "Because Adrian says you know how title works. I know enough to tell you I cannot represent you." He showed me the electronic closing packet. "Did it use your email?" "An email with my name. Did you control it?" "I did not know it existed." "Phone number?" "Not mine." "Remote notary?" "He says the notary confirmed my identity on video." "Were you on a video call?" "No." She pressed her palms against the table. "He says I told him to handle everything." "Did you?" "I told him I trusted him." "That is not authority to impersonate you." Her eyes filled. "You sound almost happy." I leaned back. "I lost my fiancé and my sister in the same month. There is nothing about this that makes me happy." She looked down at the box. "What do I do?" "You freeze your credit. You preserve your devices. You hire an attorney who does not work for Adrian or the family. You dispute the loan through the lender's identity process. You do not sign a correction, ratification, or new power of attorney. Will you help me? I will explain the public records. I will not run your case." She nodded. Then she asked, "Did Adrian ever ask you to sign something like this?" I told her about the property authorization. Her face changed. "He said you refused to support his work. I refused to give him broad signing power. He told me that was why the engagement ended. The engagement ended because the two of you were sleeping together." She flinched. I continued before anger could replace usefulness. You need to understand something. The affair and the mortgage are separate facts. The affair explains why I stopped trusting him. It does not prove he misused your identity. The closing records have to do that. Madison hired an attorney named Elena Briggs. The shared first name confused everyone for a week, so Madison called her Ms. Briggs and called me Elena. Ms. Briggs sent preservation notices to the lender, remote notary platform, title company, and Vale Heritage Restoration. Madison froze her credit and filed an identity dispute. The lender paused future construction draws while reviewing the claim. It did not cancel the mortgage. It did not declare fraud. It preserved the status quo. The initial private records created more questions. The lender's packet contained a promissory note and personal guarantee bearing Madison's electronic signature. Those documents created possible personal exposure, but they had not appeared in the Public Property Index. The remote closing packet used a look-alike email address containing Madison's full name. Authentication codes went to a prepaid phone. The notary platform's export contained the session metadata, while a third-party closing vendor retained the video separately. Ms. Briggs sent preservation requests to both before anyone could overwrite the file. The audit trail recorded a completed acknowledgement from an IP address associated with Adrian's office network. An IP address did not prove who appeared on camera. It did show the session did not originate from Madison's conference in Phoenix. The title company's file contained a copy of Madison's driver's license. Adrian had access to that image because he had booked their honeymoon rental car. The lender's application also listed a future distribution from the Cole Family Property Trust as available liquidity. That was the part that changed the story. Our father had created the trust to hold 2 small commercial buildings and a portfolio of municipal bonds. My mother received income during her lifetime. Madison, Paul, and I were contingent beneficiaries. The trust allowed the trustee to consider discretionary principal distributions for housing, education, or medical need. It did not give any beneficiary the right to demand one or pledge a future inheritance as if it were cash in hand. The trustee had not approved a distribution or consented to collateral. But Adrian's application suggested that Madison expected a $250,000 trust distribution for the lake house renovation. Miss Briggs asked Madison whether anyone had discussed a distribution. "Mom said Dad would have wanted to help us buy a home," Madison answered. "Did the trustee approve anything?" "I do not know." The trustee was our Uncle Robert. When Miss Briggs contacted him with Madison's authorization, he produced an email from Adrian asking what documentation would be needed for a beneficiary housing distribution. Robert had replied that no distribution was approved and that the trust did not guarantee personal loans. Adrian had still listed the expected funds in the lender package. That did not put trust assets under the mortgage. It did show why Madison's name mattered. Using her expected trust distribution made the project look better capitalized than it was. An independent construction review found the lake house was worth less than Adrian's projections and needed more work than the draw schedule disclosed. The first 2 draws had paid Vale Heritage Restoration and several contractors. One contractor, Northline Millwork, shared a mailing address with another Adrian-controlled company. Invoices included custom cabinetry that had not been installed. A shoreline permit remained pending. The septic work had not begun. The lender's review expanded. Madison did not leave Adrian immediately. That was the first setback. He apologized for handling the paperwork badly. He said the house was meant to secure their future. He told her the missing video was a vendor error. He said the loan could be repaired with a ratification agreement and a trust distribution. My mother supported him. "Every marriage has paperwork one spouse handles," she said. Paul argued that pausing the construction draw could bankrupt Adrian's project and destroy Madison's equity. Madison asked Ms. Briggs whether she could sign a limited correction and remain married. Ms. Briggs told her the decision about marriage was hers. The decision about signing needed independent review. 2 nights later, my mother hosted what she called a family clarification dinner. Ms. Briggs advised Madison not to discuss the identity dispute without counsel, but Madison went because she believed she could calm everyone. She called me from the driveway afterward. Adrian had brought a closing binder and placed colored tabs beside every page he wanted her to initial. Paul said the project employed local contractors who would go unpaid if the draw remained frozen. My mother said the lake house was the last gift our father would ever help provide. No trust distribution had been approved, but the story had already become that Madison was blocking her own inheritance. Adrian offered to reduce the ratification agreement to 5 pages. He said the lender only needed confirmation that the marriage recognized the property as joint. Ms. Briggs read the shortened version the next morning. It still confirmed the original mortgage, guarantee, and signing authority. Changing the page count had not changed the legal effect. Madison asked me whether refusing would destroy the contractors. I do not know, I said. That depends on the project contracts, Adrian's cash, and the lender's remedies. You could tell me what you would do. What I would do is not evidence that you understood what you signed. You always have an answer that leaves me alone with the decision. You married him after helping him lie to me. I cannot make your next choice clean by making it for you. Madison accused me of enjoying her fear. I answered, you are allowed to stay with him. You are not allowed to use my agreement as proof that the documents are safe. She stopped calling for 4 days. During those 4 days, Adrian attempted to submit a draw request for $180,000. The lender did not release it because the identity dispute remained open. He then sent Madison a proposed ratification agreement. It stated that she confirmed the original mortgage, deed, guarantee, and closing authorization. If she signed, she could weaken her own dispute. She brought the document to Ms. Briggs instead. That was the first decision she made that did not depend on me. The Family Trust Committee scheduled a meeting because Adrian had renewed his request for a housing distribution. Uncle Robert invited Madison and her counsel. My mother and Paul attended as interested family members. I was asked to explain the public title chronology, not to decide the trust issue. Adrian attended with his lawyer. The lender sent a written status confirming future draws were paused pending authentication review. It did not share private bank conclusions with the trust. The meeting took place in a conference room at the trust company. Adrian began by describing the lake house as a family asset. He said Madison had accepted title as a wedding gift and authorized him to complete the financing. He said Elena had turned routine remote closing defects into a personal campaign. Robert asked, "Did Madison sign the mortgage?" Adrian answered, "She authorized the closing." Ms. Briggs said, "That was not the question." Adrian's lawyer objected to the tone. Robert raised a hand. "This is not a trial. The trust is deciding whether to release funds. We need accurate representations." The records were presented in order: the recorded deed and mortgage, the remote closing audit trail, the look-alike email, the prepaid phone, Madison's Phoenix conference schedule, the missing notary video, the lender application referencing a future trust distribution, Robert's email stating no distribution had been approved, the construction invoices, the shared contractor address, the uncompleted work. Then Ms. Briggs produced the ratification agreement Adrian had sent after the identity dispute began. Robert read the first page. "You asked her to confirm documents she disputes." Adrian said, "The lender needed clarity." Madison spoke before her attorney could. "You told me it was a correction." "It is. It says I confirm the original guarantee. Because you agreed to the house." "I agreed to live in a house. I did not agree to borrow $480,000. My mother whispered, "Madison, think about your marriage." Madison turned toward her. "I did. That is why I signed wedding papers without reading them. I will not sign this." It was the first moment she chose truth while everyone was watching. Adrian changed strategies. He said Madison had benefited from the house. He said she had selected finishes, visited the property, and posted photographs calling it their future home. All of that was true. None of it proved she signed the mortgage. Then Robert asked about the trust distribution. Adrian said Madison told him family money was available. Madison shook her head. I said Mom believed Dad would help us. Adrian looked at my mother. Lorraine folded her hands. I may have said that. Robert replied, Belief is not trustee approval. Adrian's lawyer asked for a break. Robert granted 15 minutes. When the meeting resumed, the trust committee declined the distribution request. It also required future requests involving beneficiary housing to come directly from the beneficiary and independent counsel. The trust did not accuse Adrian of a crime. It refused to let family expectation become authorization. Outside the conference room, my mother caught my arm. You could have warned us privately before sending that box. I warned Madison privately. At her wedding. The mortgage had already been recorded. The next construction draw had not. Paul said Adrian might sue me for interfering with the project. Nina had already explained the difference between sharing certified public records with the named borrower and making unsupported accusations to third parties. I had stayed on the safer side of that line. Madison stood a few feet away, holding the wedding box against her coat. For once, she did not ask me to soften the answer. Mom, she said, Elena did not put my name on the mortgage. My mother replied, but she chose the moment that hurt you most. Madison looked down. I chose the man who created the moment. It was not a full apology to me. It was the first time she corrected our mother without asking permission. Madison moved into a short-term rental after the trust meeting. The legal marriage continued for several more months, but she no longer slept in the house Adrian controlled. The lender's process continued for months. The third-party closing vendor eventually produced the preserved session file. The video did not show Madison clearly. It showed a woman with similar hair seated in a dim office, with her face repeatedly outside the center of the frame. The identity document was held toward the screen, and the audio was too poor for reliable voice comparison. That file alone did not identify the signer. Combined with the false email, prepaid phone, office network connection, Madison's travel records, and Adrian's ratification attempt, it strengthened the dispute. The title insurer that had underwritten the lender's policy opened a claim investigation. Its counsel compared the recorded documents with the closing vendor's file, the notary records, and Madison's identity dispute statement. The insurer did not promise to clear her title immediately. It reserved rights while determining whether the mortgage and lender's coverage had been affected by impersonation or a defective acknowledgement. Madison also had to answer uncomfortable questions. She had selected fixtures for the house. She had visited the property with contractors. She had signed a renovation budget without reading the ownership section. She had told friends the house belonged to both of them. Those facts did not prove she signed the mortgage, but they explained why Adrian believed he could blur agreement to a home into agreement to every document behind it. Ms. Briggs made Madison separate the statements she could support from the ones she only hoped were true. She could say she had not created the closing email. She could say the phone number was not hers. She could say she had not appeared in the notary video. She could not say she had refused every document Adrian ever presented, because she had signed several without reading them. Her dispute became stronger when she stopped trying to look perfectly innocent. The lender stopped additional advances and pursued remedies against the project entities, while the mortgage's enforceability against Madison was reviewed. Vail Heritage Restoration lost operational control of the renovation under the loan documents. At the lender's request, a court later appointed an independent receiver after contractor disputes and payment defaults. Civil claims followed. Appropriate referrals were made by counsel and financial institutions based on verified records. No one was arrested at the wedding. No one solved the case with a single envelope. The gift had done one thing. It warned Madison before she signed the next document. Madison filed to end the marriage 4 months after the trust meeting, after her attorney confirmed that Adrian had created a second email account using her name to communicate with the closing vendor. She moved from the short-term rental into a small apartment near her office. She did not ask to live with me. She did not ask me to pay her legal bills. That mattered. Our relationship did not repair itself because Adrian had deceived both of us. Madison had still lied during my engagement. She had married him knowing the affair began before I left. She had allowed the family to describe me as bitter. One evening, she returned the wooden wedding box. "The key does not open the lake house," she said. "It was never meant to." "What did it open?" "A question." She placed the key in my hand. "I am sorry. For the mortgage? For Adrian? For lying? For letting everyone make you the problem because it made my life easier?" I did not tell her everything was forgiven. I said, "That is the first apology you have given me without asking for something afterward." She nodded. We began with coffee once a month. Later, when she signed the lease on her apartment, she asked whether I would come with her to change the lock after a contractor installed it incorrectly. We stood in the hallway with a new deadbolt, 2 keys, and a paper bag of screws. The work took 20 minutes. When it was finished, Madison tested the lock 3 times. Then she placed 1 key in the wooden wedding box beside her credit reports, identity dispute letters, and copies of every document she signed. Our grandmother's box had once held lace gloves and a house key. For one night, it held a mortgage built on a lie. Now it held records Madison understood. Adrian had taken my place beside my sister and convinced my family that caution was bitterness. The wedding gift did not give me revenge. It gave Madison one chance to stop signing before trust became another word for surrender. If the sister who married the man she stole from you opened a gift proving he had used her name, would you help her protect herself or let her live with the choice she made?